So the agenda for today is in initial 10-15 minutes I'll take for updating on the latest features that has been released over the past 2-3 months, including the non-corporate financial statement format changes that has been released recently. Next I'll be covering how to make use of the custom audit procedure configuration or custom audit procedure framework, so which is part of the audit documentation module. So what are the best practices through which we can leverage the features to enhance efficiency to a great extent? So that will be my next agenda. Thereafter, I will dive into the audit documentation module extensively. I will cover how to go step by step, covering all the components, how to create these components, how to enable them, how the client will participate in these activities, and so on. And I will also take up a case study on audit documentation, where a live case study of one of the NAFRA orders, so how we can handle a situation that was faced in one of the cases before NAFRA, effectively using the components that are made available in the audit documentation module of AssureAI. And having understood the basic things, I will just sum up with a step-by-step approach. So how to concurrently activate multiple tasks and ensure that the SMB audit is completed at the shortest possible time, at the same time without compromising on audit quality, ensuring all the necessary work papers are simultaneously generated as the audit progresses. So the first topic I'll take is the latest feature upgrades. I'll cover statement export. There has been significant changes into that module. I'll explain that. Next, I will just take you through the aging analysis Excel import feature that has been released. Some of the financial statement module enhancement. What are the changes to the non-corporate format? There is some special handling to be done with respect to interest to partners subhead. So how to do that? So this I will just cover in the next 5-10 minutes time. First is statement export. So that feature I will just demonstrate. So you will see here final statement generation. So you can just generate a report. So the reports will get generated. All these things are obviously, all of you will be well aware of all these features. And you see here export financials. So which will take you to the different tab. So this approach we have devised taking into account the feedback from many of our customers. Somebody wants the font to be changed, somebody wants color to be changed, somebody wants bold letters for some of the areas and so on. So we provide a customization framework depending on the individual preferences. What are all the customization options available here? Number one, the heading, where it will print, whether it will be printed on the left justified or right justified or center, that can be aligned. Font, you can just modify 3-4 font options that is made available. Color for the headings in respect of final statement generation, and whether to include page number, whether to include show generated by, whether the file name to be displayed or not, all these components can be modified, and whether to print in bold amounts for the current year, totals in bold or not. So all these things can be changed, and you can select and unselect different sections. So for different purposes, the requirement is to filter the output. So for certain sections like filing before register of companies, you don't require the detail section or the 3CD ratios and stuff like that. Whereas a full set of copies to be presented to the client, that should include all the necessary information, including the drill down details. So you will be able to select which are all the items you want to include as part of the report that is getting generated here. And also you can even change the heading. For example, so many of our customers are able to use the tool for generating financial statement for trust. So in the case of trust and non-commercial organization, you need to make it as income and expenditure account instead of profit and loss statement. So those changes can be handled using this page. And EPS. So you want to print the note number of the EPS on the face of the P&L account. So it is part of the additional comment section. You identify the note and say it is note number 23 or whatever. And to include CA signature. So there are many cases audit is not required where the cash payments are below 5% in the case of tax audit case. So you can skip audit signature altogether, only generate financials with client signature alone. So those are possibilities that can be leveraged from the screen. And here we have also made significant improvement in the PDF output. And PDF output will be exactly the verbatim of the docx. So that any minor changes to be done, you can export Word document, do those changes, and then from there you can save as PDF. That is also very much possible. And Excel obviously will come with the cell references. But ideally, PDF is the one where all these things are properly structured and you will generate a report that is readily usable, because PDF is the version that is not possible for doing any further changes or manipulation. So almost 95% of our customers use PDF only. So you will see here what are all these changes are taken care. P&L, balance sheet, cash flow statement. So some of the changes include the fixed asset schedule. So fixed asset schedule we have just realigned in sync with the recent recommendations as part of the non-corporate financial statement format. So just transposed the headings to the row headings to the columns and the dates to the rows, and remodified it. So there was a requirement to include block level previous year figures. That was a demand from our customers, but due to space constraints, we are not able to do in the earlier format. This takes care of that requirement as well. And obviously, the rest of the things are old, no changes that has come up other than this. And here you can also do what is called as the integration of the comments and disclosures. So comments and disclosures are handled separately in a separate tab. So you can just click this button and select generate report. So all these comments disclosures get aggregated as part of the note section. So you simply need to copy paste the tables in the comments disclosure section, and the notes will get an aggregate report. So for example, here in this case, we just export a financial, and we need to generate a rounded financials for ROC purposes. We just select the level of rounding as to lakhs and just click generate report. So the system will generate a rounded report, and from here you will be able to export financials. And in the export financials tab, you can unclick the detail section and the ratios section and so on, and then you will be able to export a PDF file. That PDF file will not contain the details, but this is the format that is exclusively for your ROC filing purposes. So this contains all the requirements of the Schedule 3 balance sheet required for ROC, where all these notes are taken care, and it will follow. And after the last note, namely ratios, the additional comments also will auto-populate. So note number, revenue recognition, foreign currency. So all these tables you need to get it filled up and copy pasted inside the comments and disclosure module. You will get a single click PDF file that generates everything, and in the last page you get a similar signature. So with this you will be able to readily use this format for the purpose of further reporting or finalization. So originally this feature was not available. You need to do the comments and disclosure in a Word and then combine it as part of the PDF. Here that is entirely taken care. In a single click, you get a report that is readily usable for the purpose of ROC filing purposes. So that is as far as the statement changes are concerned. The next one I will just cover is one more simple addition called aging analysis Excel import. So because especially in the case of first time users, so there is a need to mark the MSME stuff or flag certain items as disputed, considered doubtful, considered good and all. So doing this flagging on screen used to be a bit laborious. So instead you can now download this in an Excel format, and then in the Excel you can just do whatever changes you want. So I am just marking certain items as true. So I am just making certain changes, and even the aging. So this Excel format can be effectively used in respect of new customers who are recently getting onboarded, where the data may not be available for past 3-4 years and so on. But you may have only quite a small number of people where the creditor's aging is more than 3 years and so on. So all these things you can edit it here in the Excel. And then once you have edited it, you can just import into the aging analysis table. I just upload this figure. So all this flagging, whatever is done in the Excel, that will automatically be updated, and you just click update, all these things will get populated here, and you can proceed to save it and go. So this is again a simplification mechanism where user need not have to spend time on the aging analysis tab for flagging the MSMEs, flagging the disputed debtors and so on. So which can be done in Excel and then seamlessly re-imported, and which will accordingly be reflected in the financial statement generated using Assure. And there is one more addition that is part of the recent release is mandatory line item printing. So as you may be aware, earlier the policy was that only if figures are present in either the current year or the previous year. So only in such a scenario, the line item will be printed on the face of the balance sheet or profit and loss account or notes and so on. But then in certain cases where it's a new company started recently, not much transactions, in those cases, this used to cause a absurdity where the balance sheet will be entirely blank or P&L will be blank and so on. So that is not giving a presentable output. So we have made certain heads as mandatory so that system will include it irrespective of whether the line item in the current year and previous year are zero. So here you see long-term borrowings is a zero figure. So in the old format, it will not be printed. So in the P&L you see, so there are certain revenue from operations. So these heads which are marked as mandatory, this will eventually get printed irrespective of whether the number is zero for both the years. So in a way, this generates a report that is usable even for cases where there are no transactions. So you get a report that is readily usable and that can be presented to the authorities without any Excel editing or things like that. So that is as far as the changes in the financial statement module or enhancement in the financial statement module with respect to the companies. So now I'll just go into the changes in the non-corporate format. So I will just cover some 5 changes in the non-corporate format here. So the first one is non-current asset on the face of the balance sheet. Similar, it's only a sync with Schedule 3. So non-current asset, property, plant, equipment, intangible assets, and then the subheading was added. Owner's funds. So there was a new table that was introduced as part of the recent guidance note that has been updated. Fixed asset schedule, we have synced it with the companies also. That is also exactly as per the format of the new guidance note. Aging analysis for non-corporate. So 180-day debtor aging is mandatory in the case of non-corporate also. And also the interest partners, there is a classification change from, so originally we were showing under appropriation, this needs to be disclosed as part of finance cost. So now I'll just take you through how these things are handled in Assure. So here you see the financial statements that are getting generated. Here I'll generate a sample format for non-corporate. So there is a new method that is added, non-corporate new. So that is intended to cover the new guidance note format changes. You just select default option is also enabled, whereby non-corporate will automatically be selected as default under non-corporate new. Companies will automatically be selected as device schedule 3. And then you just click generate report, it will generate a financial statement. And here you will be able to see all the recent changes that has come up. I'll show in the PDF. So this property, plant, equipment, and intangible assets, this is a new heading that was added. So that has been incorporated. And P&L, there has been some changes with respect to this section, profit before partners remuneration and tax, profit before tax, tax expense, and so on. So those have some line item changes are incorporated. Cash flow, there are no changes. And this partners fund, so this is a significant change. So on the face of the note section, it is mandatory to show this table where partners funds, both capital and current account, need to be segregated and shown under different columns, namely opening balance, capital introduced during the year, remuneration for the year, interest for the year, withdrawals for the year, share of profit loss, and closing balance. So this is a mandatory stuff, and depending on the mapping that we do in financial statement generation, that is the classification tab. So all these interest, remuneration, share of profit, all these things are automatically taken. And withdrawals, capital introduced, all these things are automatically taken from the books of accounts. Obviously, naturally, we have the ledgers. From there, these figures will be pulled out and properly included in the respective columns. And here there is one more requirement, namely, see here you will see PPE schedule. So that is also transposed, and this will contain both the current year and previous year for all the blocks. And trade receivable aging, you see more than or less than. So this has become mandatory now, and this is also taken care. And these are all some of the changes as part of non-corporate financial statement, which is mandatory from 1/4/2025. So all these changes are incorporated in the application. And here there is one more important change, is the reclassification of interest to partners. So that is an important change that has been introduced, where originally partners' remuneration and interest was being shown under appropriation after the profits from business. So it is essentially the nature of appropriation of profits by the partners. That's how it was being shown earlier. But now the guidance note made it mandatory that interest to partners should be shown as part of the finance cost. So this introduces a tricky situation where we need to maintain whatever mapping that was done previously. So all the previously finalized statements we need to handle, and for those reports we need to ensure that the old format is preserved. And for new clients or new statements generated from March 2025, the new format table, including it in the finance cost, that need to be enabled. So this is a tricky situation which we need to handle so that there are no regression or any issues that are created causing trouble for the users in generating financial statements. So here what we have done is we have just introduced one additional subhead. So here you are seeing the configure subhead tab, and I am just selecting for firm. So for P&L account, so what are the subheads which are created? So interest to partners was previously under appropriation, shown as interest to partners. Now one more subhead was added under finance cost. So again, that is named as display name is interest to partners, but the name of the subhead is interest to partners under finance cost. So this has been added, and this handling of this is critical because we should not actually disturb the previous year figures. So what will happen is in the ledger classification. So this is where users need to focus and ensure that the finance cost includes the interest and interest partners as well. So here there is under the classification, you just filter the interest partners. So interest partners, it was classified to under the appropriation. So users, because it is copied from the previous year. So automatically it is copied from the previous year and it is reflected under the interest partners. So you need to give instructions to the team members so that it is, there are two interest partners it will show. You need to select the second one and you will see here it is mapped under finance cost. So that is an exercise which we need to do for non-corporate clients. So this circuitous method is designed in a way that there is no disturbance to the previous financial statements that are generated. And you need to submit after changing the mapping. Once you have done this, then at the time of generating the financial statements, so if you simply generate a report, so what will happen is the previous year number will continue to be in the appropriation section, while the current year will eventually be populated under the finance cost. So we need to reclassify the previous year figures. So here you need to go back, expand this tab, and there is something called reclassify ledgers. So you can reclassify the previous year ledgers so as to sync with the current year classification. So here you just click this button, automatically this thing will be populated. Interest partners ledgers. You see current year subhead is finance cost, previous year subhead interest partners. Select this and apply. Ledgers reclassified successfully. So now you close it and now you generate report. So you see here profit and loss account on the face of the P&L, there are no interest in the previous year, and once you draw down to the finance cost, current year and previous year is side by side presented. So this one handling is essential so as to ensure that the non-corporate financials of the current year are exactly in sync with the guidance note issued by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. So that is as far as the changes to the financial statements are concerned. Next, I will just cover one of the very important areas, how to leverage the custom procedure configuration module so as to significantly enhance the efficiency of operations in a CA firm. So these are learnings which we get from our own customers. So many of them were able to extensively use the framework available in the best possible way. And the feedback is this greatly reduces the time and enhances the efficiency and control. So a little bit of introduction is essential why we need to approach this problem in a particular way. So because we find resources in a small medium practitioner CA firm. So as you are aware, the tool is designed for SMP CA firms. The level 1 resource will be first year, second year article clerk or new graduates. So they will be at the bottom of the pyramid. They are expected to do the heavy lifting of manual work that is required. Level 2 resource will be 4 to 7 year experience, either articles completed or interqualified or semi-qualified and stuff like that. Level 3 will be qualified staff and partners. So there is always a time shortage for this level 2 and level 3 resources because so they have the skill set for each and every action they are called upon to help the level 1 person. So we need to create a framework where each of these resources spends only the required amount of time without any redundancy so that bulk of the efforts are and bulk of the production is extracted from the level 1 resource, which obviously will be large in numbers. And the senior team members can handle only on an exception reporting basis. For example, just take the case of fixed asset audit. Okay, so whether entries in the book match with the invoices. So this is a task for level 1 resource. So just compile an Excel template, verify the invoices. So obviously the level 1 resource. Whether some plant overall spent rupees 12 lakh is capitalized, whether the capitalization is legitimate or not, whether there is any enhancement of productive value of that asset. So asset capitalization is valid. So this probably may be a question which should go under level 2 resource. and probably level 3 management wants to revalue land to fair value. So how to assess the impact of this management decision? So this obviously is the decision of the engagement partner. So generally what happens, there will be a checklist for fixed asset audit, which contains questions covering everything, right from level 1 to level 2 to level 3. So this results in redundancy. Same people may be doing the same things. Multiple people may be doing the same things. At the same time, this makes it a mechanical exercise, whereby some of the important things, there is a possibility of getting missed out. So what we try to make use of this framework is to compartmentalize the checklist into multiple to-do tasks. So that's what many of our people were able to do it. And also considering the framework where you can create tasks which are to be performed by the client. So how to effectively leverage client time? So once a client completes a particular task, so there should be no need for the CA user to actually redo the whole thing all over again. So wherever possible, you engage the client, create tasks where client can do work, and then that automatically gets aggregated as part of the auditor's documentation. So that is the procedure framework which I want to demonstrate, which we find many people are effectively using it. So while doing it, I'll just show one sample of one of the client, how one of the customers who are kind enough to share the details, how they have actually used this framework. So in this particular case, I am just sharing the task management settings. So in the task management, annual audit under configured tasks. So this is the place all these engagement to sign up documentation tasks are created, and this is where you can create further tasks also. So there will always be a tab other custom procedures, which normally in the default state it will be deactivated. So this tab is actually meant for chartered accountancy firms to create their own workflows and bring their own workflows into the portal, so that the work gets aggregated and we can find place in the audit documentation and work paper that gets generated by the tool. So here what they have done is the first tab they have it is done as document collection. So the document collection is created as a task. So client document collection for all files, client document collection for export cases, CA firm documentation. So these are all basic documentation work, like for example, bank statements, PF challans. So generally there is one more framework that is available called doc request. So which many people are using it. But the challenge there is every year you need to recreate the doc request. So here the advantage is you create a procedure and make it accessible and workable by the client. So that simply you need to initiate this task and then have the client upload all these documents, which obviously gets fetched as part of the CA's user interface. So for example, I will just do one task here. So I will just show how one particular task is being done. So for example, client document creation. Okay. Just a moment. So I am just sharing here. This will be the normal portal here, where other document procedure will not have much of a task. So here users can activate it, and thereby you will be able to generate or you will be able to create your own custom procedure task. So other custom procedures, I will add one subtask called document collection. So it's a group task. I will just type something to collect. So to collect basic documentation from both clients and CA users, firm users. So this is the group task I have just created under the custom procedure. So under the document collection, I'm just adding client document collection. So this again is a to-do task to collect. So you can type whatever any additional instructions or something which is there that as part of the reference text. I am just adding attachments here. So bank statements. So here client level access. So we need to give full access. So the clients will be able to work on this. And whether it is mandatory or not, so every client will have bank statements and necessarily they have to submit their bank statements. And similarly, all bank loan statements. So this you need not have to make it mandatory. Again, this should be given as full access to the client. So these things can be similarly you will be able to create these tasks. You can just have a set of 10, 15 items, and then here again you will give client access to work on this. And whether this task is compulsory for assignment closure, you need to compulsorily perform it. So I am just selecting yes. So a task like this is created. So this way you will be able to create a framework where in a single click all the queries are, that is the doc requests are raised to the client. Clients will be able to scan and upload those documents. So here in this particular case, I will show what are all the things that has been created here. And here resources, you can add some of the templates format which the client might want. For example, stock statements. So what is the format they need to fill up the stock valuation? So TDS payable reconciliation. So what are all the how to work and attach the working. And in the attachments, there are 19 attachments configured here. Advanced tax challan, all bank statements, loan statement, expense page, TDS reconciliation, fixed asset, building, land, so wherever there are any additions you need to collect. MSME certificates for 43BH working. So all the movable and immovable, proprietor partnership funds, uh, provident fund challans, any sale of security. So you can keep on adding. So once you have created this particular procedure, so it will get reflected in the client portal. So I will just show the client portal how it will get reflected. For example, client document collection. So client document collection. So they will be able to see this like this. Third party confirmation, TDS receivable reconciliation, TDS balance confirmation. So all these things they simply need to upload these documents. So which will get aggregated and this will be available as part of the audit work papers of the CA. CA can review it and then proceed to, if any further queries are required, that can be communicated and shared to the client. Here, while initiating this work, there is also one more possibility of giving suitable instructions. Giving suitable instructions to the team members directly from within the application. So that also I'll show. For example, this particular case, the engagement partner has done the planning and he has selected these custom procedures. And from here itself, this documentation procedures were triggered. And there is something called comment section here. Comment section, you can just, so because the clients need to be given instruction, right? So you can just give the client mail ID and type the instruction. Whatever, you can just type your name and so. So just click this comment. This comment will be permanently there. In addition, this will immediately be sent as a mail to the client. So automatically the client will get a mail communication. So this will get updated as an email. So clients will get a notification like this, whatever with suitable instructions that will get aggregated in the client, that will get immediately sent by way of an email. So that will intimate the client they can log in and have the attachments uploaded. So this way there is a great deal of efficiency that can be brought about, so that everybody will concurrently work. So that is the objective of this particular task. So similarly, you can have reconciliation. There is something called workings and reconciliation. So that again is another aspect that can be leveraged within the framework that is available, existing framework. For example, in this particular case, I was just explaining how the custom procedure configuration has been done for collecting documents. In a similar vein, you will be able to create tasks to collect the workings and reconciliation. So there are multiple minor workings that need to be done. Fixed asset additions, you need to compile a list. ESIPF challan. So there are certain cases which are to be done by the client, certain things which can be done by the CA firms, depending on which you can just give access to whomsoever you feel is responsible for these tasks. So here the idea is that you will also create SOPs. For example, GST reconciliation. So here GST reconciliation is the working and reconciliation task, under which there are some 5 mandatory attachments that are configured. For example, electronic credit ledger, cash ledger, reconciliation, Excel, turnover reconciliation, and so on. So those need to be obtained and uploaded. And there is something called SOP. So before going into this SOP business, we need to understand that there is a significant possibility of people either going on leave. So there will be plenty of article clerks working in CFM. They may go on leave. So you need to put other person or you need to recruit new people. So there is always a challenge of attrition in a CA firm. And generally the level 2 people, they are terribly busy. So they don't have time to do the training that is required. That results in the senior team members always remaining busy and the junior team members do not have any work. So all these things can be avoided by creating this SOP kind of a framework. For example, GST reconciliation. So there are a couple of sample templates uploaded. There are certain attachments, mandatory attachments that are called for, and there is something called an SOP that was uploaded by the client. So this SOP will give a step-by-step instruction how this particular procedure is to be completed. So these SOPs, obviously, depending on each firm, will have their own set of procedures and processes. So the idea here is that you can ensure that the people get trained simultaneously as the work progresses. So you don't have to spend time exclusively for doing the training and then put them on job. So that is time consuming, and also, so after training they may leave. So these are practical challenges. So here you can just create SOP, a trained person, you recruit somebody who has some basic orientation, they will be able to do it upfront. Or even otherwise, a junior person, the training can be the effort required for doing the training can be much more reduced if you create a framework where all these SOPs templates are pre-populated and stored. So this way, users will be able to much more efficiently handle these tasks in a much better way. So here, for example, in this particular case, for GST reconciliation, so the maker of the application will have this checklist which is populated, and under the resource and guidelines, they will see all these SOPs and what is the why this particular procedure to reconcile the figures as per books with the amounts reflected in the portal, credit ledger, cash ledger balances, reconcile turnover, and so on. And they can download the SOP, they can review the sample template, they can download the bank template, fill up and upload either the client user or the CA user, and you can get it done by the client user, upload it here, and then you fill up the checklist and proceed to close it. So this way, bulk of the heavy lifting, 80-90% of the work gets done by the junior most assistant with the help of built-in checklists and templates. So that is the approach. There be senior people's time is conserved to a great extent, which can be handled much more efficiently. So that is as far as the custom procedure configuration is concerned. So I believe there is a question: is rounding off to rupees is possible in addition to hundreds or thousands? So that is a pending requirement. The rounding is being overhauled as we speak today. So probably as part of the next release, there will be a rounding feature that will get released to production, and that will contain this feature of restricting or skipping the decimal. So that has been a demand from a few of our customers, that is under development and released as part of the immediate next release in a couple of weeks' time. So that is as far as the reconciliations and workings are concerned. So there is couple of other features that are used by our customers. One is exception report, and the other is final approval. So those again are very useful features. Here in the task configuration, you find under the other custom procedures, there are a couple of tasks such as exception report and final approval. The exception report is where the chartered accountant uses either a level 1 or level 2. So they may confront some exceptions, maybe trivial, maybe negligible, but probably one couple of invoices missing for fixed assets, or there is some 5,000 rupees mismatch in the GST credit ledger. So likewise, they will notice some exception. So this exception report is meant to capture all those exceptions, whether documentation deficiency or any figure not matching, third-party confirmation where the balance is not matching due to some omission in accounting. So all these exceptions can be aggregated here, and the maker and checker may be instructed to update this Excel so that the engagement partner can confine their focus only on reviewing this exception report, and if any corrective action to be done, that can be done, and it will be incorporated in the audit report or financial statements that are getting generated. Final approval again is a framework where the statements are getting generated, audit reports are drafted, comments, disclosures, templates are being compiled. So the final draft of a financial statement, audit report, everything need to be reviewed. And in the review, there will be a possibility of some of the changes that need to be recommended or that need to be suggested to the users, and that is required to be incorporated, and then that again the user need to resubmit it for final approval and so on. So this is actually meant for communication interface between the team members of the CA firm and the engagement partner. So here you can just get the statements, previous year ITR full set, or current year draft IT computation, current year draft financials, current year draft company audit report, 3CD. So all these draft reports can be updated, and in the chartered accountant can review, and in the comment section they can update what are all the changes to be required, any modification to be required, any comments or notes to be changed, or chartered accountant can rectify it and upload the corrected version and inspect to use this. So all these things can be done. Here again, you can hashtag the users. So maker checker can be hashtagged, and here you can type what are all the changes required, and then ask them to resubmit it after correction and then review. So this way, the manual perusal of the outputs that again gets logged efficiently, and all the changes suggested getting efficiently incorporated. You can review it and then proceed to sign off the financial statement. So this is one of the feature where, so generally these are done manually. The paper is kept in the auditor's table, so they note down something in a paper, and all these things are incorporated by the assistants, and then a fresh set of output is presented. So all these things are capable of being handled in a much more efficient and with proper log that can be handled. So that is as far as the final reports are concerned. So now coming to the benefits of this approach. So what are the benefits? Why we should do this? Right work, right hands. So it automatically routes low judgment or voucher verification or reconciliation, matching numbers. All these jobs are left to level one resource. So if you just see, for example, the fixed asset example I have given in the first at the inception. So 85% of the work actually rests with level one in terms of time spent. 10-12% eventually left with level two, and probably less than 2-3% probably may be required. The two may not be required in most cases. So the engagement partner's decision making skill may not be required at all for getting this particular task done. Only he need to oversee and then approve it. So heavy lifting of tasks gets done by the junior most assistants. At the same time, they get on the job perpetual training. So that again is a critical task. Implanting training again is a very painful process, because the trainers who are the senior staff members, they are always busy. So this can efficiently handle the attrition, save trainer time through SOPs, built-in quality. So you just create these SOPs so none of these things get missed, and all these tasks and checklist checkpoints are in compliance with ICA guidance, notes, and so on. So all these things can be ensured in a way that the regulatory compliance is inbuilt. So the idea is to SOPize the audit practice entirely. So because each and every step there is need for knowledge transfer, you simply create an SOP, update it in the framework, and have your team members to click it and do it, read the instruction, read the SOP, download the template, fill it up and upload. Then it will go to the checker who can review and close it. So this way, there is a great deal of standardization, minimize people dependency, even if there are significant attrition in the downstream team members. Any new incumbent can immediately start working, and this greatly reduce errors and omission. So that is as far as the benefits of make use of this approach to audit documentation, or basic collection of documents, working reconciliation, and things like that. So I'll handle some of the questions that are posed here. Can multiple files be uploaded against an attachment? Yes. So there is a question, can multiple files be uploaded against an attachment? Absolutely yes. You can attach any number of attachments against a particular line item, and you can have, it will actually come with the version history as well. So all these attachments, the moment it gets attached, so it will show the version history as well. Just a minute, I will just populate and show the page. I'm just uploading some 3-4 documents. All these things, it will come with uploaded on so and so date, so and so time by so and so. So it will come. And you can have a next version. After verification, you can upload the second version, third version, and so on. So all these logs are available. The best part is that everything will get aggregated and be downloaded as part of the single click work paper compilation that you will be able to download after the assignment or the audit assignment is complete. So that is as far as this question is concerned. Can we generate timesheet after completing the audit and also user-wise monthly report? So these are actually pending agenda. So actually what happened last 1 year, nearly or probably more than a year, our critical focus was entirely on strengthening the audit documentation. That has been the persistent demand from most of our customers, especially as the enterprise customers. So because timesheet and all, many people, they are using it, using some other practice management tool. But documentation was the one pain point which is very, very critical and taking a lot of time. That's why enormous amount of resource we have invested in streamlining and perfecting that module. And now that it is done, naturally the next item. And initially we are planning to focus on domain content like probably book depreciation, IT depreciation, GST reconciliation and stuff like that. And timesheet, employee-based P&L accounts, all these things are very much my pending agenda, but it will be taken up based on the existing priorities. Can I mandate attachment upload for a checkpoint in the checklist? So that is a very valid question. Can I mandate attachment upload for a particular checkpoint? Yes, it is very much possible. So I'll just, because this is a question which is very relevant for everyone. So you can just specify that for a particular checkpoint. So there is an attachment that is mandatory. I'll just show where to do that. For example, I'll just take something. Questionnaire checklist. Just one moment. I am just trying to open the Excel sheet. Just one moment. Yeah. Yes. I am showing the checklist here. So here you will see. So this is the Excel template that is getting uploaded as part of the checklist. Is attachment mandatory? So there is a column here. So here by default we have selected it as no. So because that will put a restriction, you will not be able to close that particular checklist point. So here this is the field where you can mark it as yes and upload this as part of the checklist. Once it is done, unless that particular person attaches the document against that particular checkpoint, they will not be able to close that particular checklist procedure. So that feature is built in. So I believe that answers the question. Can I assign checklist task to a client? Yes. So you need to, at the time of creating a checklist, you need to ensure that the person responsible for answering that checklist is a client. That is very much possible at the time of creating a checklist procedure. You will be able to assign certain checklists. That is why it is named as a checklist bar questionnaire. So you can create client questionnaire and ensure that the client answers those questions. So that feature is also very much available. How can we do the e-filing with the statements prepared in IT site? So IT filing, there are already tools are being used, Winman, Computax, and so on. And we are actually working on generating an Excel template. So we find there are multiple tools, they don't even allow Excel import. So Winman, for example, we understand that they don't have an Excel import tool that will import the P&L balance sheet. So we are working on generating a Excel template that can be universally used across the multiple utilities that are being used. So that is a feature that is work in progress, and we are trying to do it for uh, 2, 3 tools like Genius, Winman, and so on. So there is one more question. AOP, BOE clients is possible. So yes, many of our customers are actually using the tool for trust association of persons and all. So that is very much possible. So there is a support team available. If you have any challenges in doing certain customizations that are required, you will get connected. Please drop a mail to support or raise a ticket. Our support team will help you in using the tool for other non-commercial entities as well. So I think that's it from the questions and the answer session. Now I'll just dive into the documentation part. I believe which again is a very critical requirement to fully understand what are all the features that are available in the audit documentation section. So in the as far as the documentation is concerned, so the entire set of features are up and running, including determination of materiality, identification and marking the potential misstatements. So that is also taken care, and identification and correction of misstatements and summary page. So this entire chain of events has been released a month ago, and we believe we need to explain that so that in a single click or paper compilation that is getting downloaded that contain the entire events right from engagement initiation to audit report in one single click. So I'm just skipping the introductions. So just a little bit of info about the approach we have chosen or what are the resources we have used while designing the module for audit documentation. So our focus has been to keep things as simple as possible so that the level one resource in a CA firm should be able to complete 80-90% of the documentation work. And the senior team members can intervene and participate only to the extent required, either a checker or approver, while all these procedures travel through the entire workflow mechanism, maker, checker, approver, and if necessary, EQCR as well, so that with the least possible time, the documentation gets generated with the help of built-in checklists and templates, and also in compliance with the regulatory standards. So while designing the module, while our objective is to keep things as simple as possible, at the same time, we need to ensure compliance to the regulatory expectations. So we have used the resources including NAFRA data collection questionnaire. So the NAFRA issues a data collection questionnaire before the inception of a review. We have reviewed that. Few select orders of NAFRA. ASCAA, there is a book on NAFRA audit quality. So issued by Karnataka State Chartered Accountants Association. And there is a research paper on of IIM Ahmedabad. So we have reviewed all these things. We have also reviewed multiple other tools which are available. And we believe many of the tools are actually extraordinarily complex. Most of them are actually imported from other countries and may not actually serve the purpose in an SMPCA environment. So our outcomes we expected was it should be absolutely simple to use, and there is a need to eliminate redundant procedures. So there are many redundant procedures, like for example, so somebody need to upload the ledger level breakup that need to be reconciled with the balance sheet. So all these things become redundant because the balance sheets are automatically in sync with the underlying books of accounts. So we need to eliminate redundant procedures. And as I said, first level resource should be able to do 80-90% of the work, and the senior team members can intervene only based on an exception reporting basis. So that is as far as the approach and non-negotiable outcomes that we expected, and we provide quality, ready-to-use built-in content at the same time provide the flexibility. So the flexibility part we have been discussing over the past half an hour, how to make use of the flexible configurability framework that is available to the best use of enhancing the efficiency. At the same time, we provide the content in the form of all these checklist template, AIS procedures, SA procedures, and so on. So that will drive the users to seamlessly use it, and then only on an accepted reporting basis, seniors can intervene. And at the end, once all these procedures are complete in a single click, you will be able to download an audit or paper compilation. So that is the outcome we have expected, and we have achieved all these things. So at the time of inception of an audit, so first thing to be done is planning. So I want to take a couple of minutes here because there are many new customers who have joined this session who have recently joined AssureAI. Just take a couple of minutes in explaining the framework here. So first, while the users actually start the work, ideally the preliminary work in the form of opening balances, removing the errors in the books of accounts, register scrutiny queries at result. So all these things to be done upfront. So here there is no room for any training because most of the users are already well trained. And if you find it difficult, there is perpetual training session happening every week. 3-day training session is happening. You can join and understand these features. So this page basically financial statement generation and ledger scrutiny is actually meant to create a balance sheet that is worthwhile of audit because in an SME environment there can be any number of errors and omissions. All these things are addressed at this stage. And once you initiate an audit, you will be able to get into the planning stage. So first is all the procedures which are saved in the backend get populated in the planning module. So the user can select which are all the procedures you want to apply for this particular client, depending on probably the client complexity and scale of business and so on. So you can either cover all the procedures. Ideally, we recommend covering all the listed procedures. Actually, we have actually filtered. This is what is suitable or essential for a SMB audit. So ideally, we better to follow the built-in procedures. But if you can enhance it or modify it to suit your requirements, once it is done, in the execution page, all these things will get listed. And there are 18 letter templates, 34 SA checklists, 27 AS checklist, FSLA checklist, SQC checklist, CARO checklist, audit reports. So all these things are inbuilt. So the users will be able to perform tasks one by one and then proceed to submit for review. And once it is submitted for review, it will go for approval. And then once it is approved, it will be marked as complete and a work paper will get generated. So now I'll just show for one sample checklist procedure how we can create a checklist. So there are multiple different components. Checklist, questionnaire, client questionnaire is actually meant for questions to be responded by client. To do task, letter template to be signed by CA, letter template to be signed by client, letter template to be signed by both. You can create group tasks under which you can create multiple to do tasks and so on. So these are all multiple components that are available. So let us show for especially new users how one checklist component is actually created and then enabled for use inside AssureAI. So in the annual audit, the configure task. So this is the section where users will be able to configure their procedures. And here I will show how a particular checklist component is added. So assuming without grouping it, I just create a separate task, for example, checklist for a tax audit. So which is the checklist procedure, questionnaire or checklist. So here description, I just type as checklist for audit under section 44 AB of the Income Tax Act. Under the attachments, I just configure certain attachments. For example, depreciation working Excel. Whether to give access to clients or not, you can decide. These are mandatory. I am marking. Likewise, you can keep on adding the attachments and mark them as mandatory. So once you have added the attachments, you can just go to the next section, and here you will see you can add questionnaire. So for adding questionnaire, I am just selecting one of the checklists I have just created in the backend. So checklist for tax audit. Here, this is the again an answer to the previous question I have answered. Here you need to select whether the checklist to be filled by the auditor or client. If you just mark it as to be filled by the client, then it will go to the client dashboard. Clients will be able to respond to these checklist points. If you select it to be done by auditor, it will be obviously be done by the auditor, whether it is a default checklist for this procedure. And I'll just upload whatever the checklist that I have created already. Form 3CD checklist for maker. I can even have multiple checklists also. So we will have a separate checklist for checker. So who will not be required to do the entire verification. They can only verify only the final output. So you cannot mark two things as default. So you can just create these things and then proceed. So automatically a questionnaire will get created here. This once enabled, this will be reflected in the client audit documentation tab. So this way you can create these checklist components and ensure that either the client or the CA, whomever is responsible for answering these checklist points, so they actually handle the queries in an efficient way. Similarly, letter templates, they are used for engagement letter, MRLs, independent confirmation, and so on. So all these things are already available. And you can freely create your own letter templates. You can create an MRL separately for CARO, tax audit, or there are some NBFC audit and also in all these cases you can create these templates and get it signed. Custom tasks. So these are three tasks which I wanted to elaborate. So because materiality, testing and aggregation of potential and identified and corrected mistakes. So these are very, very critical in the audit, especially given the stipulation of SA 320, SA 450 and all. So here these tasks cannot be handled through this checklist approach, right? So because these things need to be handled using the numbers in the financial statement. For which I will just show how these tasks are handled in AssureAI. For example, materiality in testing, I'll just take this case. So determine materiality is the first step in this three-step custom audit procedure. So first step is to determine materiality. So for determining materiality, we simply adopted the ICAI Excel utility. So ICAI has released an Excel utility for determining materiality. So we have simply adopted this framework released by ICAI. User need to simply select the risk metrics here, level of risk, whether it is low, depending on the risk parameters, whether there are any corporate restructuring, significant changes in the entity from prior period, significant transactions with related parties. Likewise, you will be able to select these items, put a weightage to that, and accordingly, the engagement risk is getting populated in the bottom of the page. Overall risk assessment is taken as medium and 5. So there is also a provision where in a single click you will apply default responses that generally will be suitable for most companies, and you can select wherever there is a need to modify the default responses in which is applicable to the particular client. Once it is done, then you need to select the benchmark for fixing the materiality. So this is done generally based on revenue. So for clients having significant business, so revenue is generally taken as a benchmark. You can select the benchmark materiality, and in the remark section, you can just see why being you can put whatever reason. So these are critical because in APRA review, they will demand why you have taken a particular materiality, why you have taken a particular benchmark for materiality. All these recording of judgments that need to happen in real time. So that is very critical while performing the procedures using AssureAI. So here there is the efficient framework. Then and there you can record the judgments. Then and there that obviously get carried to the work paper that is getting generated. And you can select the areas for specific materiality, and then the summary of materiality benchmarks will be populated here. You can just click this procedure as complete. So once the materiality is fixed, then the next important procedure is to perform testing. So as you are aware, SA 450, identification and correction of aggregation of misstatements, it is mandatory that every line item in the financial statement above the performance materiality that is required to be mandatorily tested, and the user need to quantify and aggregate the potential misstatements that surface during the course of audit. So here we give this 4-column view here: opening, total, debit, total, credit, closing balance, and all. For example, finance cost, you can just review this and all these numbers. And here you see which are all the items which are fully qualified for testing, which are not qualified. Qualified means if it is above the performance materiality level, it is qualified. If it is not qualified, it is not mandatory for testing. And you need to select the mark it as testing done, select the appropriate procedure, or you can just type whatever is the comments you can do, verify accrual, classification, and so on. And if there are any potential misstatement you have identified, we can just mark it here, and the remark the reason for why it is marked as potential misstatement that you can type and save. So this is to be done for all the line items which are above the performance materiality, which is a mandatory procedure. Once it is done, you can just submit for review, maker, checker, approver can be completed, and then you can just mark it as complete. So once it is marked as complete, then so whichever tasks which are marked as complete, there will be a work paper that is automatically generated for that particular task. For example, here under the materiality and testing, you have seen this work paper generation is getting enabled for FSLA testing. So I am just downloading the work paper template here, which will show as an exception report. So which are all the line items which are qualified for testing but not tested. So that will be highlighted in the work paper because these are line items which are mandatory to be tested. It will actually list down what are all the items which are qualified for testing but not tested. So that will also be highlighted there. And then it will summarize the potential misstatements, identified misstatements, corrected misstatements, and so on. So this work paper will contain also the audit trail of the entire sequence, maker, checker, approver, timestamp, and all. That will obviously withstand the rigor of regulatory review. So that's how it has been structured. So that is as far as this potential and identified misstatement is concerned. Once the identified misstatements are marked by the maker, then all the identified misstatements will get aggregated and is viewable by the engagement partner. So there is an identified and corrected misstatement tab where all these things will be presented, where it will be listed which are all the identified and potential misstatements which are marked, identified misstatement, corrected misstatement, uncorrected misstatement. So here the user will be able to mark it as corrected, uncorrected, and all. In the summary page, this table will show what are all the materiality benchmarks and what are all the misstatements which are identified. Potential misstatements, identified misstatements, trivial misstatements, balance identified misstatements, corrected, uncorrected. So everything will be available. Here the chartered accountant can conclude considering the uncorrected misstatements are way below the overall materiality, you can record your conclusion and save it and complete it. This again will be saved as part of the audit work paper that is getting generated. So that is as far as the work paper template is work paper generation is concerned. As far as the single click work paper is concerned, once every task that is planned, so while all the tasks are completed, then user will be able to generate a single click work paper compilation. So in a single click, user will be able to download a compilation that contains the entire set of events, right from engagement initiation to audit planning to risk assessment. So preliminary audit tasks, materiality and testing, SA procedures, AS procedures, CARO procedures, SQC procedures, audit conclusions, including the audit report. So everything will be downloaded in the form of a single click audit work paper compilation. So coupled together with whatever documents you are collecting from the customers as part of the custom audit procedures, everything will get aggregated in the form of a work paper, which can be downloaded and saved in the chartered accountant, even in your OneDrive or your own desktop. So which will permanently be available in an organized way. Whenever any regulatory review comes, you will be able to simply share the zip file. They will be able to review and confirm compliance. So that is as far as the audit documentation part is concerned. So there are many other points under documentation. Approval framework, maker, checker, approver, EQCR framework can be effectively leveraged. Task status, workflow status, there is absolute freedom of configurability, client access, plan date, actual date. So all these things will find a place in the work paper. We request you to try it out, and if you have any difficulties or challenges, please come back to us. We will just hold an exclusive session for your team to train them. That is also very much possible. Gathering evidence as part of the audit is a very critical requirement. So here attachments are obtained from the client or from third parties and so on. So you can collect and append it at a task level, at a checkpoint level, at a subtask level. So all these things get aggregated and find a place in the work paper generation. So the objective of the utility is to ensure that heavy lifting of the manual work in terms of filling up the checklist, templates, getting the engagement letter signed by the team members and so on. So all these things are done exclusively by the junior assistants or level 1 resource in a GA firm, and the senior team members, either an engagement partner or probably the checker of the application, they need to only intervene on an exception reporting basis. So they don't need to attend to trivial items like gathering the evidences, reconciliations, and stuff like that. So that is as far as the modules are concerned. Now I'll just take 15 minutes in explaining one case study on audit documentation. So that is relevant for users because there are many new users who have joined the session. So that is why we are repeating. So 2-3 months back we have had this case study presented. So those who have already attended probably may skip this. But this is actually meant to demonstrate how a live case scenario in an audit that can be much more efficiently and effortlessly handled. So that is the idea of this particular case study, purely focused on audit documentation. So imagine a scenario where the company has incurred a loss. This is purely a live case scenario taken out from one of the NFRA orders, and the numbers are modified to suit the current realities. So a company was incurring losses and could not service their debts properly. And during the financial year ended March 2024, there was an interest liability to the tune of 9.5 crores quantified by the bank and debited to the account of the borrower. This is duly reflected in the bank statements. And during the course of the year, company started its discussion for settlement of the borrowing through one-time settlement. So the discussions were going on, but it was not concluded. Subsequently, in May, bank issued a OTS offer waiving some 3.7 crores of the total interest accrued for the financial year 23-24 upon meeting certain conditions, including settlement of all the term loan dues and the company before March. So these are all conditions stipulated in the OTS offer. The company complied with these conditions and availed the OTS offer, which was finally documented. And the company recognized the interest waiver in the financials for the year March 23-24. So this was the matter which was before the NAFRA, for example. And the NAFRA issued a show cause stating that this is a misstatement with respect to interest liability and the auditor has failed to qualify his report. So this was the observation of NAFRA in the show cause notice. In response, the engagement partner has elaborately responded, stating that there are innumerable evidence of the events that pre-existed on that particular date as on 31st March that was duly considered as part of the AS on subsequent events, and only accordingly they have taken a decision. So these are all part of the subsequent response by the engagement partner to NAFRA. But NAFRA eventually concluded that none of the claims of the engagement partner are supported by evidence in the audit file. So this is the conclusion that NAFRA has recorded. So the expectation is that whatever critical judgment or judgment calls the chartered accountant is making, so it needs to be evidenced in the audit documentation. So here is a unique scenario where a subsequent event, namely OTS waiver by the bank pertaining to the prior period, namely 23-24, was recognized considering an AS, but the fact that chartered accountant has applied his mind and taken a conscious call, so that need to be demonstrated from the documents. That is what is expected by the regulator. So here we will see how this scenario can be handled. So I'll take 10 minutes probably in this particular important thing. So the idea is to impress upon the viewers that there is a very easy to use framework that is available where for any exceptional scenario that surfaces, you can record your judgments then and there. How we can efficiently use it, I will be demonstrating using this particular case study. Just give me one moment, please. I'm just taking one sample item here, for example. So this is pertaining to finance cost, right? So audit of finance cost is the relevant area where this judgment needs to be captured. So I'm just enabling the checklist for finance cost and demonstrate how we will be able to effectively capture this unique scenario that has surfaced for this particular client. So there is a FSLI checklist testing of finance cost. I am just enabling them and start the work. The checklist is populated here. And there are plenty of checkpoints here. You can just review and respond one by one. So generally the default response will be applied and then user will go through and review if there are any incorrect responses. So here in response to this particular query, for example, have you reconciled the total finance cost in the general ledger loan statement? So this is one query. And the interest schedules provided by the entity's lender, interest accruals at the year end supported by lender statements, cutoff calculations, and so on. So here there is a scenario where the lender statement will reflect a different figure of interest, while the amount recognized will be different. So the answer is supposed to be no for this particular thing. And the user actually records a comment. That is the maker of the file records a comment. stating that the company has unpaid interest liability as at the year end reflected in the bank statement issued by the lender. The bank has issued a OTS offer waiving 3.7 crores towards the liability towards interest and so on, and debiting the interest expense at the year end. Hence, the interest charged profit and loss account is different from the interest expense debited in the bank statement. So that is the exception he is capturing here. And as part of the evidences, he is actually attaching a document here. I am a bit slow because the user need to understand the context here. So he is attaching a OTS proposal to this, and then he is submitting for a review. And in the review submission, he also makes a specific point seeking the focus of the senior to this point. Submitted for review, specifically requesting for review of the checkpoint 16, wherein discrepancy between bank statement and interest debit is explained in the comments. Please suggest appropriate course of action. So this is a scenario where the maker has escalated the decision to the senior person. So now this has been triggered, and now I'll just open this in the checkers dashboard. Just give me a moment. Yeah. So this is actually checker. Checker is Chanakya Patel here. Chanakya Patel's dashboard, it is showing as submitted for review. Checker reviews this particular thing, and he can just go down and see the comments as well. So history, he will see submitted for review, what is the comment of the maker, all these things he will be able to see. Attachments also he will be able to see, and he is generally not the decision maker here. So he is, sorry, I just forgot to save it. Just give one moment. So he is actually again seeing the response here, comment here and all, and then he is again escalating it to the engagement partner because he again is not confident of taking a decision here. So he is just marking it as reviewed and putting the comment again. Senior is requested to specifically review the issue of interest waiver through OTS offer that was concluded subsequent to the year end, which has been incorporated in the financials on March 24, and suggest suitable course of action to handle these exceptions. He has submitted it for a review by the engagement partner. So now the engagement partner need to evaluate this and take a suitable call. Just one moment, I will just open the engagement partner as well. So because this trail of events that happens, that is very critical, and all these things get captured in the work paper. That is a very, very important aspect that happens real time. So now the engagement partner, so it is a Aravind Krishnan, who is the engagement partner in this particular case. So now that particular task is in front of his dashboard. He can again review that. He will see it is waiting for his approval. So he has gone through this. He has seen the OTS proposal also. And he has reviewed it, but he is not going to approve it. He is rejecting it. So, so he wants certain additional evidence. So what he does is he adds certain additional. He calls for certain additional evidence. For example, bank statement at the year end. So he wants the team to collect and upload certain additional evidences for him to make a final call on the treatment. Bank statement evidencing waiver of interest. OTS final agreement. Board minutes. So without which you will not be able to decide whether there is a pre-existing condition as on 31st March. So all these evidences are essential in order to apply the subsequent events. Yes, he has attached certain additional evidences and he is now rejecting this procedure, stating that collect and add the attachments. Collect and add the attachments I have mentioned and resubmit for approval. So this again goes back to the maker. Now the maker will again review the response here. Maker can on the under the history sheet he will see CA has commented like this, and he sees the attachments here, and he has collected these things, and he'll actually attach these documents here. Email OTS, board minutes, OTS agreement, bank statement evidencing waiver. So all the documents are attached. Now he is again submitting for review. So he again puts a comment that evidence called for are attached here with please review and approve. Again it goes to the checker. So checker will again review this, read the history section, what are the communications, and he will marking it as reviewed. Again, he is escalating it to the, because it's a unique scenario. He has no right to decide. So naturally, he is escalating it to the higher ups. He's again pushing it to the engagement partner. Now it is going before the engagement partner. So engagement partner has got all the evidences he has called for. Engagement partner actually reviews all the attachments evidences, and he is convinced that there is a pre-existing condition whereby application of this interest waiver retrospectively in the financial statements of 23-24 is in order. So but then he needs to record his reasoning in the work paper. So otherwise, we'll again get caught with the same scenario which was faced by the chartered accountant resulted in the NAFRA order. So here that can be effectively used using the comment section. So in the comment section, he can record his judgment as to why he is deciding a particular thing here. So for doing this, what we can do is that because these are not exact scenarios that we often have ready responses, right? So these are all unique scenarios where user may have to further probe and ascertain the reason. So generally, such things get escalated to the chat GPT, right? So generally, we may have to ask a query and get responses. So this scenario I just capture in a prompt and take the response. So eventually, we need to understand the response and agree with it. But we can actually seek a response from ChatGPT as well. I am just putting the facts into the ChatGPT prompt, interest accrued, so on, so on, so on. So, can you draft something like an audit memo to record the detailed facts, reasoning, and judgment of the engagement partner? I am just raising this question. And ChatGPT obviously gives its verdict. So, executive summary, what are all the facts, key facts, verified. So, obviously, the output, especially given the O3 model, the outputs are very good. So it has given a output here. Partner can sign off this, and you can just copy this output, and then so obviously you need to apply the mind and understand whether it is in sync with whatever we wanted to say, and if necessary, do whatever modifications we want to make, and eventually you just record the audit memo here, audit memorandum, whatever the client's name and all. So all these things can be added. So what is the issue? So what are the evidences that has been examined? So everything and what is the partner sign off. So all these things I have reviewed the above analysis, underlying evidence, and the judgment made are reasonable and supported. So you can just add, if at all any further conclusion to be added, you can add it and complete the comment. So once the particular decision is taken, then there is also a need to communicate to the team members as well. So which can also be done so from within this comments and disclosure framework. For example, I just compiled a note for communicating this decision to the team members. So engagement partner to the engagement team. So I am just writing a memo. So this again, I am just hashtagging it. Shankar Raman is the maker. So I am just writing this and click comment. Automatically, a mail communication will also go to the maker and checker. That is a particular decision has been taken. And there is also a need to inform critical judgments to the client as well. So communication to those charged with governance. So here again, you can just append one comment in the comment section. What are the key points? What is based on the evaluation? We concluded treatment of interest waived by the company is in line with the applicable standard. And here you can just send it, hashtag it to client. So here client we have not added. So we just simply tag the client. So automatically the communication will go to the client as well. So all these things are done. Then actually engagement partner approves this particular procedure. He marks it as approved and then record that approved to close this procedure and proceed further. And then he completes it, marking it as complete. So this way, the entire chain of events, right from the initiation of the procedure by the maker, and eventually it gets multiple iterations of further process between or communication between the engagement partner, maker, checker, and all. And eventually this gets completed and everything gets captured in the form of this work paper. Now I am just downloading the work paper for this particular checklist. So here you will see the work paper generated that will contain the entire sequence. So work paper on FSLA testing of finance cost, which will contain all the attachments, namely questions. At the checkpoint level, what for question number 15, what is the attachment? This OTS, whatever bank statement that is there. Finance cost. So what are the attachments subsequently called for by the engagement partner? And this is the checklist. So that will actually carry the entire sequence. What are the checklist points and templates? And below is the critical fact. What is the status history when it was started, in progress, and so on. And this workflow history. So what are all the approval, maker, checker, approver, what are the comments interview in between, and these whatever judgments that are recorded, when it was recorded, who has recorded it, what is the audit memo, that is the communication between the team members, communication to those charged with governance, what are the planned date, actual date, maker, checker, approver. So all these trail right from engagement initiation, right from the first leg when the paper is submitted for review, ultimately collecting all the evidence, including the judgments and the evidence is gathered. Everything gets aggregated in the form of a single click work paper compilation. So this way there is a clear and efficient framework where a recording of judgments by the chartered accountants on critical unique areas can be much more efficiently handled, and on real time this can be communicated to the clients, communicated to the team members from the comment section, which gets permanently saved and seamlessly carried to the work papers that are getting generated once the assignment is complete. So this way there is a easy framework whereby audit decisions are recorded properly, and a similar situation like work paper compilation that can be efficiently managed. So now that we have understood what will be the ideal approach for an SMP audit, so that is one question. So we, based on our experience, we can just share how you can quickly complete what are the tasks you can take up in real time. So beginning with the day when the client uploads their books of accounts. So first initially complete the preliminary task, do a preliminary review, data validation. So all these things are done. Run a ledger scrutiny, identify the bugs and errors, raise it to the client, get it clarified. So do a first level cleaning in this particular screen. And ideally probably pass entries for depreciation, tax provision and all. And while doing this, you can trigger certain tasks from the audit program module. So the first one is the document collection. You can trigger this, and from the comments you raise a mail to the client. Client will upload those documents. All these things happen simultaneously. And also the level 1 resource will start working on the workings and reconciliations. At the same time, you can ask them to get the engagement documentation signed. So there may be certain tasks like audit appointment letter resolution and all. Probably this will be saved in the already available for filing the ADT form and all. So all these things to be gathered and uploaded. And the procedures for engagement letter collection, audit planning, risk assessment, hold an audit planning meet one day, and then record these findings and then upload the signed copies and so on. So all these things can be entrusted to the junior assistants who will be able to complete these tasks. So once the basic documentation is done and the reconciliations workings, those tasks are done, then you can go to this materiality testing, because materiality is a number that is extracted from the underlying financial statements. And unless the financial statements are reasonably perfect, this exercise will be cumbersome and repetitive. So you need to probably reassess materiality and so on. So ideally, you start the materiality and testing activity only after this particular the financials are in a reasonable shape, and then proceed with the testing. Record your identify potential misstatements, probably gather evidences, attach them, and then simultaneously proceed with these SA procedures, AS procedures, and so on. So all these procedures, except this materiality testing, most of them are doable by the junior assistant. And during the course of your review by the engagement partner, you will come across certain scenarios, rare scenarios such as the case study that we have discussed. If anything comes up, probably you need to get into that aspect of the checklist, mark, make suitable modifications in the responses, or add any comments, gather any evidence. All these activities need to be done so that it gets aggregated and generated as part of the audit work paper that is getting compiled. So this way, an SMB audit, which including documentation, is something which can be done in 30 days time. So probably this can much more efficiently be done probably less than half the time. So that is as far as the step-by-step procedure is concerned. Now I'll just close it in 2 minutes. Just give me a moment. So the next one is, what are the non-compliances? So we again used ChatGPT for this purpose. We done a deep research in ChatGPT. What are the top 10 non-compliances in NAFRA orders? So it actually scanned all the NAFRA orders which are available in the portal, and it has come out with top 10. So number one being, auditors failed to maintain proper work papers, lacked evidence for audit procedures, and did not document critical judgment. So this is the number one defect that is pointed out in NAFRA orders. Here in Assure, you have a framework where you can maintain proper work papers. Almost the maintenance of work papers is done by the system. You have a framework where you can gather evidence for the audit procedures. So the procedures performed get logged, and you can collect further audit evidence and attach it as part of your papers. And document critical judgments. So that's what we have seen in the case study. So you have a framework where you can record your critical judgments then and there, which gets documented in real time. So the next one is, auditor failed to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence. Obviously, this can very well be achieved using Assure. Risk assessment was either absent or poorly executed. So here there is a framework for materiality, risk assessment at the time of materiality, and fixing the materiality threshold. Everything is handled in line with SA. No evidence of determining materiality threshold. Misstatements were assessed in isolation instead of aggregating their impact. So there is no such possibility in Assure. Auditors failed to properly plan an audit. So the planning is the phase from where the audit actually starts in Assure. So you just plan certain procedures to be applied, and then it is getting executed by the team members with clear audit trail. External confirmations for receivable loans are either not obtained or lack alternative procedures. So external confirmations, generally there is a manual process that is being followed. You collect these external confirmations and append to the relevant checklist or procedure. So that obviously getting accumulated as part of the evidences. Companies with deteriorating financials and cash flow issues were given clear audit opinion. So there is obviously a judgment call taken by the chartered accountant. So the missing element there is the documentation of the judgment. So that is very much efficiently done by Assure. Required audit engagement quality control review was omitted in the public interest audit. So EQCR can be added and can be part of the assignment. Significant findings not communicated with the audit committee are moved. Here from the comment section, you have a framework where directly communicate with the client either at the CFO level or audit committee. So you just simply need to hashtag them, and automatically communication will go. I believe this masterclass will be of use, considering the number of participants who have joined. We believe so this will certainly be useful.